Welcome to the JVB Production Cyclops and Skene LED product review. This review will focus on first the Skene LED brake light and turn signal setup. Then we will focus on the Cyclops LED turn signals front and rear. First, let's take a look at the Clearwater Billy and dynamic motor rod turn signals. These are LED extras that I've added onto my bike, and we'll use these to compare against the Cyclops and the Skene turn signal LEDs. First, we'll install the Skeen P3 turn signal LED system. The system comes with the LEDs, wiring, connectors, and the module to set this up, and I will show how to put it into the bike. The instructions that come with the kit are simple and easy to follow. On my bike I have the GSA racks, so you'll need to remove those, as well as the rear frame cover that I'm showing here. All these bolts will have to be removed to access this area. Here you can see what that area looks like with all these parts removed. Here you can see the PDM 60 and the Clearwater light setup and all the wiring that I've installed for that. To access the wiring for the turn signals and brake light, you're going to need to pull these two screws. That will drop down this panel and allow you to get to the wiring for the turn signals and the brake light. There are 3 clips that need to be removed so that the brake light can be disconnected so that you can access the brake lights. Here you can see how it's done. These clips just pull loose with the needle nose pliers, and then you can shake the brake light loose. Here you can see the brake light connector, and you'll need to take that loose. These are all the connections you'll need to make according to the Skene wiring diagram. Here you can see where each of them go. In this case, I've connected the left and right LED leads and the grounds to the ground strap. This is a view of the old style P3 lights, but it demonstrates how to install them onto the bracket for the license plate. Here's how I routed the wires, and you can see that I drilled a slightly bigger hole where the other hole was to fit the wires through. Makes it a little bit easier. Here you can see where I installed the Skene controller. Your bike might be a little bit different. There might be something in the way. You can also see where I attached the brake light lead, the white wire going into the brake light. Attach that lead to the black and gray wire on the brake lights. Here's a view of the brake light when it's on the bike. You can see why you need to pull it loose. On the left and right turn signals, you'll see the colored wires where you need to attach the posi-tap. Here's a view of the right side where you need to attach the posi-tap. Once the wiring is done, put the rear panel back in place with the T30 Torx, lightly snugged. Here you can see them installed. Make sure that you bend the mounts a little bit so that the lights are level, the T3 lights. Here's what it looks like when the running light configuration with the Billy light also lit. At the end of the review, I'll show you a video of all these lights lit. Now let's take a look at the Cyclops LED turn signal inserts. This is front and rear. There are running lights, brake lights, and turn signals all in one. The kit comes with everything you need, panels, wiring, and all. The bottom wiring is for the hex interface. I didn't use that. While not strictly necessary, I like to take off all of the bodywork, including the gas tank, to make the wiring clean and neat. Pause here and look up the links for your particular body style type. If you have a GSA or a GS, I also have the availability of the RT bodywork removal if you're installing it on an RT. Here you see the pre-installation wiring from my other accessories that I already have. First thing I do is lay out the harness across the bike to see how it's going to fit up and where I need to tuck it in later on. Here you see the wiring attached but not yet cleaned up. Before you clean up and bundle all the wiring, you need to install the LED panels. This takes a little bit more work, but it's not that difficult. Here you can see the dynamic motor rod lights that I had in it before. Then you first pull off the covers. It's just a simple Phillips screw. Then you pull this back and remove the wiring. Once that is done, you drop down the rear panel so that you can access the wiring so that you can feed the new wires into the system. Here you see the ground installed. Using a T30 Torx, you'll take the turn signals off. They're a half turn and then they pop off. Feed the wires through the stock in order of white, color, and then brown. The brown is ground. You do this so that they'll all go through, and you do it one at a time. When you put the turn signal housing back on the stock, make sure that this tab is facing up. I needed to use a pick to expand the wiring plug just a little bit to fit on the Cyclops panel board. Next, plug in the wires as shown. Use one or two of the supplied clips to hold the housing onto the stock. Now press the LED panel into the housing. This can be a little bit tight and a little bit tricky to get in there. Once in, reinstall the lens and then put the screw in. You'll find that this may be difficult, especially if you have two of the holding clips in. I had to remove on a couple of them one of the holding clips and use just one. Now start installing your wiring from the rear forward. Also note that to the right you'll go to the battery. For a clean look, you want to get it as tight as you can. I put it up past the seat holder, around the radiator, and then up into the front. Then I tucked it up in behind the air intake and then zip tied it in place. As with the rear, on the front, use the T30 Torx and remove the turn signal, and then feed the wiring in. As the same as rear, you use the notch up, and then you plug in the panel, and then you put it all back together. It is, again, a tight fit. I used some 1/4-inch split loom to cover the wires and make it look better, and also to keep them protected. Once covered, I zip tied these into position to keep them from bouncing around and make them secure. Since I already had some 1-inch split loom going from front to rear for my other projects, I tucked this wiring neatly into it and then ran it off to the battery on one side and then up to the front. Here you can see the battery installation. Okay, time for the review of the results of these installs. I took this on with the understanding that I would be honest and straightforward with what I did. First, we'll take a look at the dynamic motor rad LED turn signals to see how they compare to the Skenes. They're pretty bright and they're very reliable, and they're really easy to install. I like the dynamic motor rads, and if that all I was doing was this is what I would use. Here you see with just the Billy brake light and the regular brake light, and I'm going to give a few different angles so you can see the brightness of them. As they stand, not bad. They put out a good amount of light. I'm very happy with these. Now we're going to take a look at the Skeen lights. Here's when I turn it on, and you can see it takes a second for them to kick in. Once they do, they're pretty bright, and you can see that flickering effect that the Skenes are famous for. These are really noticeable at a distance. I've had them on my bikes before. I really like them. Here you can see what happens when you hit the brakes. They're very bright. These things really work. These also have the turn signal built in, so you can see when you have the turn signal on, you hit the brakes, it changes up. You can see the brakes flash. You can see the turn signals flash with the brakes. This is with the dynamic motor rads in it. It's a pretty good setup. If I were only going to install one thing, it would be the Skenes, and then maybe add the dynamic motor rads with them. Puts out a lot of light. It definitely stands out and gets people's attention. Now I connected the Clearwater Billy and did the same thing. As you can see, it adds more light for sure, but I'm not sure that it's really necessary to have both sets. If I had to pick one over the Billy, I'd probably pick the Skenes. I really like the Billy, but the Skenes on their own, they're seriously bright and they work really well. And I like the way that they work with the turn signals, and that gives you that little bit of extra. But they work really well. I would go both ways. Like I said though, if I had to pick one, I'd probably go with the Skeen lights. These new Skenes are incredibly bright. Hopefully they're very reliable, and put with the dynamic motor rad turn signals, they work great. Now let's see what happens when we add the Cyclops LED turn signal panels. Turn it on, you can see the delay. The turn signal panels come on right away. These are red and they stand out incredibly well. Now you see the LED Skenes jump in, and also the Billy. The Billy is almost an afterthought at this point when you look at all of the rest of the light. Once you hit the brakes, the Skenes flash like crazy. The Cyclops turn signal LEDs are very bright with brakes as well as with the turn signals. They're by far brighter than the dynamic motorads, and also they're running lights. So they work as running lights and turn signals and brake lights. So it's a really nice package. As you can see, they'll get anyone's attention. These things are seriously bright. The angle that I have it is so that it wouldn't wash out my camera as I was trying to film this. If I'd have had them straight on, as you can see, they get brighter. Also, as you go to the side, they stand out from a pretty obscure angle. So these are great lights. I like them a lot. On the front, they also work as turn signals, as well as they run bright white like daytime running lights. They're really, really nice lights in the front, very bright. They stand out against my headlights very well. Here you can see they're bright white, and then when you turn the turn signals on, the one will turn from white to flashing yellow as a turn signal. Here you can see how they compare against my LED headlight and the Clearwater Cristas that I have also installed. This is a formidable amount of light in the front of the bike. When you turn the turn signals on, the one stays white and the turn signal side flashes yellow. It's very easy to see, and as long as you have your lights separated like I do, it works really well. Now you can see what it's like with the brights on. This is a lot of light in the front of the bike. So to conclude this review, I'd say that the Skeen P3 turn signal lights are an excellent investment on their own. If I was just going to add one thing to my bike without any other lights on the bike, I would add the Skeen P3 turn signal lights for the rear. This gives you brake lights, turn signals, running lights. It's very bright. The flicker catches your attention. These are excellent lights. On the other hand, if I wanted to cover front and rear, instead of the Skenes, I would go ahead and get the Cyclops lights. These panels are amazing. They put out a lot of light. They give you brake lights, turn signals. They have the whole thing. Running lights. The quality of the light is great. The brightness of the light is great. These things really work, and they work really, really well. Hopefully you found this review useful, and please look for future reviews on other products from JVB Productions. Thank you.